Welcome to Paws Unplugged, the podcast that dares to go raw, real, and radically different in dog care. We're here to question everything from vaccines to kibble and get back to nature's blueprint for raising healthy, thriving dogs.
If you're a dog lover who's ready to think outside the vet's office, challenge the norm, and embrace the untamed path, you're in the right place. Come join us twice a month as we unplug from the undoctorated narrative and dive into the wild world of natural rearing. It's time to let instinct lead. Let's get unplugged. Disclaimer, we aren't licensed medical professionals, and the information we're sharing is for educational purposes only. How you choose for yourself or your dog is your personal choice.
Welcome to Paws Unplugged, episode 6. Today's episode is MODHA, which stands for Making Our Dogs Healthy Again. And this is about breaking free, reclaiming health and truth for our dogs. So the system is broken, guys. Okay, it's not broken. It's actually functioning exactly as it was designed. It's a system run by big food and big pharma, and it has trapped us in a cycle of dependency for profit. And it's exploiting the health of our pets for financial gain. It is a perfect storm of misinformation, convenience, and coercion, where the very institutions that we trust, animal shelters, rescues, traditional breeders, and veterinarians, are often complicit in perpetuating the lie. But here's the truth. There is only one way to dismantle the system, and that is to stop participating in it. To truly make our dogs healthy again, we must break free from its change and reject the propaganda and embrace natural, holistic approaches to health.
Yeah,
right, Lorena?
It is. It's a system. The system was built to keep you trapped. And so there's 3 components to this system, I believe. More, but for us, it was 3 components to the system. How this works against us. So the first one that I want to address is the food system. And we have been told that kibble is balanced and complete, that it's veterinarian approved, it has a gold standard to it, that it's all been tested and approved, and that it's convenient and affordable. And so I'm going to share more details on how that is not true. And Lisa, you want to talk about Big Pharma.
Right. So the second aspect that keeps us trapped is it's Big Pharma, and they have their claws in so many different aspects. There is vaccines, there's chemical dewormers, there is heartworm medication, there is chemical flea tick medication, there are antibiotics, there are anti-allergy medicines. I mean, the list goes on, and Big Pharma is $100 billion a year industry when it comes to pets. They need our pets taking their products, and those products are making the dogs very sick and killing some of them. But at the very least, they're chronically ill from their products, which is perfect, because then you need more of their products once you're sick from their original products. They never address anything at the root cause or any other alternatives that are natural and might actually help to heal a dog. They just pump out their drugs, and the dogs are getting really harmed in the meantime. And then there's a third aspect that is keeping us trapped in the system, which Lorena will tell you that one.
And that's the enabled institutions. Okay, so those are things like shelters, rescues, and breeders that follow to a T the system that is in place, the protocol and agendas that have been laid out and have been used for decades and decades, that this is what you have to do. So those are things like making sure they're up to date on all their vaccines. So a shelter dog, a rescue dog, if they don't know anything about it, let's make sure that they're healthy by getting them up to date. If they haven't been spayed or neutered, let's make sure we get that done now. If they're a breeder, we want to make sure that, 2, 4, and 6 weeks of age, we deworm them. They've had 2 rounds of vaccines before the age of 8 weeks old, before they can go home. And here's the protocols that you must follow when you take this puppy home. Some breeders will demand that you spay and neuter pretty early, and then microchip these dogs as well too. You must follow this agreement if you want one of my dogs from these particular breeders. So that's the institution of what is aligned in the system. So
Right.
now we
And
want to go, oh, sorry.
well, I did just want to add that shelters, rescues, and breeders, I believe, all truly have a heart and a passion for the dogs.
Oh, yes,
Their
yes.
intentions are there because they love dogs. They put their heart, sweat, and tears into the dogs. And what they don't realize is that while they are trying to save the dogs, they're killing the dogs.
Yep.
So these institutions that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into saving the dogs or killing them, and we need to dismantle that system.
Yep.
And so
They're just maximizing. So I feel like the veterinarian industry, okay, has been set up by the pharmaceutical
yes,
industry to push things. And so if they follow these protocols, yes, these dogs will stay customers to this bigger industry. So they're maximizing it as much as they can to keep the dog a very profitable client for this industry, which is just hurting the dog in the long run. They really don't care about the dog, like, okay, bring, Max in, let's do all this. I don't know why he's throwing up, but here's a drug for it, right? Here's this for it. And then come back in 2 weeks and let's do some more blood work. Or next thing we'll do is a CT scan. Like they always have something that they can do eventually. But you got to get into that roller coaster type system so that you can keep coming back. It's not like, oh, let's just try this and figure it all out right now. Nope, we need at least 6 months or more
yeah,
to then really screw up the dog's immune system to then go, oh, and now we might think it's this now. I don't know. That's my thinking.
It's not very common that you get actual answers that you need. You just get a drug thrown at you that hopefully it works, but it's definitely going to have more side effects.
It really reminds me of another type of system, huh? The human healthcare.
Identical, because you know what, they're both of their curriculums are designed by the pharmaceutical industry. It's the same playbook in human and dogs, which is actually really sad. But how do we break free from the system? How do we get out of this? The big food, big pharma, and then these enabling institutions. There's only one way to get out of the system, and that is you have to stop feeding the system. The only way to shut the system down is to stop giving them money, stop paying them, stop throwing money at them. Every dollar you spend on kibble, every dollar you spend on a vaccine, every dollar that you spend on any pharmaceutical, any dollar you spend on animal shelter by adopting an animal, that supports the system to keep it alive and to keep it you're feeding it, and it's happy system. It's a very happy system, trust me. So breaking free means you have to make intentional choices that prioritize health over convenience, truth over marketing, and nature over industry. And that is a mind shift that we're asking all of our listeners to make, that mind shift. And so you have to reject the lies, and we touched on these a little bit in the beginning. But let's go over a couple of the big lies that they tell us that we believe are truth. And we need to really get out of the veil of deception and see these lies for what they are.
Yep. The first one is the food industry. We've talked about this before, but I'm going to hit it on the head again with my hammer. Balancing complete in the kibble world is just a marketing gimmick. Okay. There's nothing balancing complete in anything a human, a dog, anyone eats, right? They're not saying, oh, I only ate this much. Now I'm complete in that area. Well, what they do in this concoction of kibble is they're putting so many things in it to make the dog parent believe, because the verbiage is on there saying complete and balanced. Then there is diseased animals. It's not human grade at all. So they can put whatever they want into this food non-human grade. Okay, then they have food colorings and artificial flavorings in there. They have seed oils, like massive seed oils are in dogs' food. I don't know anything that's complete and balanced with seed oil. Okay, just inflammatory. That's all that you get from seed oils and so much more. Then you compile all of that with synthetic vitamins and minerals. And the reason they put these minerals and vitamins into kibbles is because of such a lack of nutrition that's in the kibble food itself. That is why they put that in there, just to make sure that they're getting something.
There would be zero nutrients in kibble if they did not add in the synthetic vitamins and minerals.
Correct.
Zero.
And I truly believe supplementation in the dog world is mainly for dogs that are on kibble. Like, I can see some things that could be for raw feeders, but for the most part, it's basically for kibble dogs.
All right. Yeah. When you're on a raw diet, you're going to get most, if not everything you need from the food. It's just naturally in the food. So yeah. So the supplement market is right up there with the pharmaceutical market because, that's a huge multi-billion-dollar industry as well.
So the pivoting point for dog parents is to indulge and to learn how to make a species appropriate diet. And there's just three things that are in this. It's meat and muscle, it's organ meat, and it's bones. Like, that's all that is needed to feed a dog properly.
And so, and we've had our episode on raw feeding, which if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen, because we have a lot of information on it. But I can't tell you how many people are like, I'm afraid to feed raw. I don't know if they'll be able to give them all the nutrients that they're supposed to get. And so they do have nutrients that they're supposed to get. But if you're feeding them meat, organs, and bones, they're getting all the nutrients that they need to get. They do not need this crazy, insane diet that some people are out there saying that they need, because that just really turns people off from raw feeding. Because
you mean I don't need a spreadsheet with everything on there
with weights and grams and this many grams? Yeah, I've seen a lot of those, and people actually get paid a lot of money to make up those spreadsheets too. But it's so you really got to think of it this way. So the AAFCO is who is in charge of saying if something is balanced and complete or not. And that's like the FDA of the dog world. So if you like and trust the FDA, you might like the AAFCO and feel comfortable with your dog's kibble or raw. If you are a little leery about the FDA actually being an independent agency and not being completely bought out by the corporations themselves, and you think maybe they're not the best government organization to determine the food and drugs I put into my body, then you're probably going to be on the same path with the AAFCO. It's the dog version of the FDA. And just like the FDA is completely bought and paid for by the corporations, the AAFCO is completely, it's actually run by the kibble companies, just so you know. It's actually run by the kibble companies. They're in charge of making the rules, and they're in charge of saying what's complete and balanced. So do you trust that? Like, seriously? Or do you trust that in nature, dogs eat meat, organs, and bones, and they're healthy, and that's what they should be eating? It's
crazy. I mean, for me, it's God created them this way to eat, not for humans to come up and change everything in a dog's, way of eating. Like, I don't know about you, but, in nature, dogs aren't like this, like wolves, coyotes, like everything in nature. They're not the ones going out and going, you know what? Sure, we should be eating this. We should be making sure we have some roasted vegetables in here and a pot of rice. Like, they're just not doing that.
No. And Speaking of nature, Lorena, I just tell you a quick funny story. I have been on a kick of watching wolf documentaries for like a month now. And last night I saw this great documentary on wolves, coyotes, and foxes, which was actually really great. All three of them interacting in Yellowstone. And I found it fascinating. And, wolves are at the top, and then the coyotes are in the middle. And those little foxes, man, they're at the bottom of that food chain. But it was pretty interesting. There's a couple of things that I found interesting, but one thing that really surprised me that I don't really know why it wasn't so much on my radar, but a nice little fox, after everybody else got their share, he grabbed himself a nice chunk of meat and he was running off with it. And that an eagle came and he had to fight an eagle, which he had no chance of winning against the eagle. The eagle was kicking his butt. The eagle got the meat. I mean, they're fighting for their food out there, every bite of it. Like they
Oh,
work
yeah.
hard for their food. And I was just really surprised that I didn't even realize that the eagles were such predators against, the.
Oh, yeah. I mean, where I live, that I live in a rural area, a
Mhm.
lot of farmlands around us, tons of eagles and hawks, like tons of them. And when we see them start swarming, I'm always like, oh gosh, the chickens, right? Because we have lots of free range chickens here on my land, and they free range everywhere in my land. But if those start getting close, my chickens start like hiding. They know that, oh, we're prey. We better hide, right? And my goose just kind of swims in the water, like, hey, you guys should get under that tree over there. But what's really interesting that I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people have know this, or maybe you don't know this, but when I watch them where I live, and the hawk or the eagle is trying to go after something, and the crows come out, and the crows are they're like gangsters. Like they work together as a team and they go after the hawk or the eagle and they leave. And when I watch this periodically, I see it quite often where I live. It reminds me of, like, we think that like the eagle is so bold and so tough and they like rule the air and the skies, right? But they're kind of remind me like the government, because we're all like, ooh, they're the big bad ass, bird in the sky. We must, respect them. Then you have a group of crows come in and they just are like, hell no, you're not taking over my tree, my this, my that. And it reminds me of us sometimes, like
That's
us, the
us.
people. Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
we're just the little guy. And who are we against the big bad eagle? Who are we against the big bad government with all the power and all the money and all the control? But when we band together,
oh,
that is when we make a difference.
when you do not comply to what is happening together, you hurt the pocketbook. And guess what happens? They shift gears and go a different direction.
Always. Money
Always.
always is the bottom line. Money always talks.
Yep. So
Um,
when we talk about these things and what you can do, first thing is, when we say don't be part of the system, don't do this, don't spend your money on these things, and these things will change. They will. They have to, if they start going under. If their holders are not happy, guess what? They got to change shit. They just
yeah.
have to change shit.
They only care about the money.
Yep.
So right now the money's easy to them because they've convinced everyone that they need this zero nutrition kibble, and they need all these vaccines and other pharmaceuticals. And so their plan is working right now, and the money is flowing.
Yep.
As soon as that money, they do not care at all if your dog is sick, if your dog is healthy. They do need the dog alive to be, a customer, but other than that, they only care about the money. So if they need to change course of what they're doing to keep the money flowing, that's exactly what they're going to do 10 out of 10 times.
Do you think with this whole, okay, so I know this is still within topic here, but like changing course. I don't want to give my dogs vaccines that have so much heavy metals or toxicities in it and this and that. And they've heard the voice, but they don't want to comply to that. So they switch gears. And what I'm trying to get to now is the mRNA.
Mm.
Like maybe switching this and making people believe this is the new and safety product. Do you
Yeah,
agree? Like we're
I do.
starting to see that.
When we're talking about rejecting the lies, right? We just talked about, kibble, that's a lie. The next lie is vaccines are safe and effective. That one of the biggest lies ever told, because we know vaccines aren't harmless, and
It's a product.
they are not, necessary, and they are very harmful. So what's happening, especially since the COVID vaccine came out, is people are really questioning vaccines like at a level they never have before. I mean, the number of kids in America that are not up to date on their vaccines is staggering now. There's many more people coming out, not vaccinating their dogs or their cats or their other pets, because when in our previous episode when we talked about vaccines, we listed the ingredients of, there's adjuvants, there's heavy metals, there's foreign DNA, there is viruses. Those vaccines, they're bad news. It's no joke. They are bad news. And so they got the beat of the American people. They know what's going on. They got the pulse. They know that people are getting very, very leery of vaccines. Anything from just questioning them to straight up just not ever going to use them again. So their new mRNA vaccines are pretty fancy schmancy, because they do not have any of the dangerous stuff that the regular vaccines have. They do not have, I know it sounds exciting, right? They don't have adjuvants in them. They don't have heavy metals in them. They don't even actually have viruses in them. So I mean, seriously, that sounds really exciting, because now you can actually protect your dog from viruses without those harmful ingredients that are neurotoxins and cancer causing ingredients. But there's just kind of one tiny problem with those mRNA vaccines. They're self-replicating RNA injections. They are biotechnology. They are literally, I can't even say whether they work or not. I have no idea. I know the COVID shot didn't work, but
no, it didn't. And what's interesting in this particular type of vaccine, right? Because we already know this is not going to go on YouTube because they will censor the shit out of this one.
Yes, this
again.
One will get, our vaccine one did get taken down off of YouTube,
but
you can find it on
us.
Rumble. Yes, you can find it on Rumble.
Here's the deal. They utilize this in the COVID shot. We all know that they utilize the mRNA in a COVID shot. Nobody actually knows the real studies behind it long term, right? Because they just put it in there and
they don't exist. The long-term studies don't exist.
They don't exist at all. But here's things that do exist. When you step back and you start looking, okay? In the human world, we started seeing lots of turbo cancer, right? People were just like one day fine, next day they have like
it's literally
young age,
not just cancer, turbo cancer. Like turbo that's cancer, scary. Like, that's scary. Yeah,
but a younger age.
Younger
it's not
people.
Like elderly people. It's younger age. And then you have heart attacks happening at younger ages, right? Blood clots happening to so many in all ages. Yeah. And then people just not waking up.
The hashtag died suddenly is there for a reason, because people are just literally dying out of nowhere. Like we know this, like, we see it. They just are dropping dead. Yeah. It's scary. It's really scary.
But what I am seeing, and I know you have been seeing this, is in dog groups. Okay. We don't know how far or where they are with the mRNA in all the vaccines. We do know it's in it because they've already shared they want to transform all the dog vaccines to mRNA. Where they are, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 20%. We don't know where that is because there's nobody talking about it too much. We're just assuming. But with this assumption that we're doing, here's some of the things like Lisa and I are seeing in dog groups. I am seeing more dog parents talking about, my dog had a heart attack and died suddenly. My dog had blood clots, went in for surgery, had blood clot, died, never woke up. and this is before they're 2 years of age. It is skyrocketing. Every day, someone is posting something very similar to what I just said in different breed of groups. It's not just
Right.
one breed.
It's all the
It's
breeds.
yeah.
It collectively,
Ooh,
and unless you're like us and you're just like in a lot of dog groups and you're keeping the beat on what's going on, um, you you don't necessarily see it. It's very isolated. And it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. You see it here, you see it there, but when you start looking at everything collectively, you're like, whoa, something's changing here. What is going on? And like Lorena said, we know that all animal vaccines are going to eventually be mRNA vaccines. We know Merck has an entire canine line for all of their vaccines that's already available. What we don't know is how much this has been implemented yet. We don't
yeah.
know, like Lorena said, is it 10% of the pet
Yeah.
population? Is it 80%, or what's the marketing plan? We don't know. We
We don't
just know.
know. I
But
do
what we
know this. I do know this. Remember how they wanted to bring it in for cows, right? For beef cows. And in Idaho, they're like, nope, we're not having that here. But we're unsure if that's being used anywhere. Like, I'm unsure, even though they say we're not really using. I have ranchers around here that tell me we vaccinate, but we don't use that mRNA vaccine. Like, okay, for one, I'm never buying your beef because you vaccinated your beef, or your cows. But here, a lot of farmers don't want that. Farmers are interesting ranchers. Like, I don't know. I know we're not talking about cows and stuff, but they're not dumb on the vaccines. They see what vaccines do to herds when they change things up. When somebody comes in and says, we're going to change things up, and this is going to help with X, Y, and Z, and all of a sudden their whole herd gets X, Y, and Z, they never touch it again. And it takes years to recoup after they do that. Well, imagine a breed of a line of trying to recoup from mRNA. I mean, like, it'll take years, if not decades, to find people that never went down that route to help you with your
oh,
program.
and that brings me right into my next major concern about the mRNA vaccines is we know they alter DNA. We know that it's, that they still try to say it doesn't, but everybody knows that it alters DNA because it has to. That's how it works. Okay. Um, Once the full rollout of mRNA vaccines are out for the animals, for the dogs will never be the same. Their DNA will never be the same again. And you can never go back. And I just have this urgency in me to tell people that the dogs we know today, whatever breed it is, golden retrievers, shih tzus, German shepherds, Danes, I don't care, whatever breed it is, they will be genetically altered by these mRNA vaccines. And the only place you'll be able to get a true dog is from a natural rearing breeder or a stray on the street that never was fortunate enough never to get vaccines. But that will never come back from it. Once the DNA is
Yeah.
altered, you can never unalter it. You can
Yeah.
never, ever come back
I mean,
from
even
that.
a stray, you have to be careful. That's like we're going back to shelter dogs or something
Well,
like
I'm
that.
not
Like,
supporting strays. I'm just talking about
I
one
know,
that was fortunate enough not to be
but I'm saying the
vaccinated.
parent, even
Uh,
even
oh yeah,
if
yeah.
what I'm saying is like even a breeder that goes, well, I won't vaccinate your dog, but the female and the stud were both vaccinated by mRNA or whatever else they've gotten. Has your dog's
It's
compromised?
your dog is automatically
Yep,
altered. DNA has been altered, even if you don't vaccinate your dog. I mean, there are
yep,
going to be natural ring breeding is growing. I love it. It's fantastic, but we're still a drop in the bucket
yeah,
compared to everyone else. So the fact that we don't know exactly when these will be implemented locally or in your local area or whatever means it is too dangerous to get your dog any shot right now because you could be getting their new mRNA shots. And it could, we know it, we suspect it's already happening in areas. We know it's coming for all of the dogs, and we do not know when it will be for your dog. And if you're a breeder, please, like, stop now. Do not give any more vaccines to your dogs, because you could be damaging your lines genetically with their DNA for forever and never undoing it.
Yeah.
Never going back. Once they're injected with the mRNA vaccine, they will never, ever. And I am not talking about side effects or turbo cancer. I am talking about God made these dogs with his perfect DNA, and this DNA is being altered to never go back to the way God made it. So please just stop. You don't know
Oh,
what's coming. You don't know.
ah,
You don't know
it's
when it's
crazy.
coming.
You don't know. And I feel okay. So in our last one of our last episodes, I don't know, maybe a month ago or so, with the vaccine one, I've had people that I know that work in the veterinarian industry, and I shared this. They went to go look for the insert booklet so they can share with me information, and none of these have insert booklets anymore.
That's insane.
That to me tells me, what are they hiding? What do they not want dog parents to see if they ask to see these booklets? There's just a phone number for the veterinarian to call to get information. And then if you have that phone number, you have to be a veterinarian for them to share the information to you. That right there is a huge red flag. Like, how can you call a manufacturer that you are buying a product, because that's a product. Remember, we're buying a product from somebody that's selling it. The vaccine is a product. How can we not know what's all in it? Why are we not getting that information? And why is there so many dead ends, right? Or blocks in the road for us to get that information? That right there should tell you a
So
lot.
it should be extremely alarming. Okay, vaccine inserts, no lie. It's always been hard to get hands on vaccine inserts. Like, they don't want you to actually see them because it
Yeah.
actually lists what's in it and what the side effects are, which are pretty bad. But they're out there. The fact that Lorena's friend went looking for vaccine inserts in a vet office in brand new vaccines, and they do not include the inserts in the vaccines anymore. What is going on? Seriously,
What?
they're hiding something. Like, something's changed. The inserts were always there, even if we couldn't personally get our hands on them. The doctors and the vets, they've always had access to those things. It's always just been that folded up 10,000 times white paper and print so small you can't read. It's always been included with the vaccines,
Yeah.
animal and human. And now
Nothing.
well, I don't know what's going on in the pediatrician's office, but in the veterinarian office now, there's no inserts in the vaccines. I mean, is that legal? Does it matter? I don't know. But tell
I
me
don't,
what
yeah.
changed. What changed that they stopped including the inserts, and that's acceptable?
That's what scares me with this whole mRNA. I am telling you, and the thimerosal free vaccine, rabies vaccine, I feel that is like a loaded gun. Like, I feel that is worse to give your dog. Okay, even though I'm not for any vaccines, but when I see people every day tagged in so many posts every day, and it's the same thing that you read over and over. I took my dog in. I was bullied into, I was feared into, like, it's the same song and dance to get this. And now my dog went into anaphylactic, and they just gave it Benadryl, and they came out of it. That's their protocol, is to give IV Benadryl. That's how they do it. And then boom, my dog's not the same. Can't walk, isn't using the bathroom correctly. It's been 3 weeks. I'm going to go back in. I've spent already $5,000 on blah, blah, blah. Like, all this stuff is adding up. And just for the listeners here for us, let me just share with you a little tidbit. If you took your dog in, or have taken your dog in, and it had an adverse reaction to any vaccines, and your vet wrote it down, it's paper trailed, you can submit a claim to the manufacturer company, and they have to, by law, pay the vet bills. So I want all of you guys to know this, so that if you choose to do this and you have an adverse reaction, you get that immediately on paper, and you start working and calling. It is a true thing to do. Many people don't
Well,
utilize it.
except get the vet to agree was the vaccine. I mean, I know someone
Yeah. You
recently,
have to get the vet to agree. But if it's happening right there in front of them.
No, like, guess what? I have a friend who took her dog in. She's not really a big fan of vaccines at all, but had to get the rabies vaccine because it's law. Took her dog in to get the rabies vaccine, and the dog died. And you know what the vet said? The dog died from stress. The dog died from stress.
Oh my fucking God.
Right. So like it's right. They're literally, the dogs are dropping dead in front of them, and it's anything but the vaccine. Like, I mean, so of course this girl was never getting a vaccine.
The vet knows it was a vaccine.
Oh, they know.
They're just not going to comply and say it is.
But in the rare event, you're going to get a vet that's like, oh, okay. Here's another. I know a breeder in California who she took her puppies in at 7 weeks to get all of their shots. And like 3 days later, the whole entire litter was dead from parvo. And she completely recognized that it was from the parvo shots. And the vet acknowledged it was from the parvo shots, but they did come to a mutual agreement that it was a bad batch of shots. Oh gosh. Okay. So she's still vaccinating. He's still pushing them. They just got a bad batch. It happens. It's not common, but it is a possibility. You know, I mean, she lost a whole entire litter. Like,
the dots don't connect to a lot of people. You know, like it just baffles me when it's right there in front of you and you can't see it. And you're just sidestep and kind of push it to the side or brush it under the rug, and you keep moving forward, doing the same thing. And then the next batch happens. The next batch, I'm sure with you, along with me, I get people that come into my program that want to purchase a dog from us, and they want to do it the right way this time because they have seen over and over and over and over and over again what this industry has done to their beloved dog.
Yes.
It's a system. It's that system. And until you can see that this system is not about health, but about control of how to profit, you're going to be stuck in the mud. Like, that's just what's going to happen.
Yes. And I mean, you can only stay there for so long before you're like, okay, I got to
get out of dead.
This. Yeah. But so now they do, it's hard to get out of the system because they have a very powerful system in place to keep you in the system. They're like, it's not just a well-oiled system. We must keep everybody in the system.
Their fear factors are good.
Yes.
You know, they fear you that if you don't do this, if you don't vaccinate your dog's going to suffer. It's going to get ill. It's going to die. It's going to die.
They will die.
Parvo's going to kill them. Parvo's going to kill them. Parvo's going to kill them. They will push that agenda as far as they can until you break and do exactly what they say.
Yeah.
Or they'll tell you not to come back.
I tell you, fear is what sells vaccines. If there was no fear, the vaccine industry would be out of business in a week, literally. Like, they have to have the fear. They cannot sell their vaccines without the fear. You know, another thing they do is that if you question the system, okay, now all of a sudden you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist. You're labeled as a quack,
a bad dog parent. You know, like, how dare you question me? I'm the authority. I'm the knowledge. I know what's best for your dog, even though your dog doesn't live with me and I see all the issues, right? I know what's best. And it's crazy, but you have whistleblowers. I mean, even whistleblowers. And then all of a sudden they're dead or they're missing.
Yes. Every legitimate someone was legitimate when they either go missing or turn up dead. And they write like all these letters, like, I am not suicidal. And then a week later they suicided themselves. And you're like, oh my gosh, what did this person know? You know, but they bury the truth. They sell the fear. They bury the truth. They label people speaking the truth as quacks and conspiracy theorists. And you're the crazy one. I mean, they gaslight you and they call you names. And then everybody else who's in the system, it gangs up with them. And they're like, oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're such a quack, you're such a weirdo. I can't believe, where's your tinfoil hat? You know,
Yeah.
they just all gang up on you, and they all like beat you down. Like they take you to the town center, they mob rush you. And it's like, the truth will not be told. Like we will suppress the truth at any and all costs.
Yeah. The illusion of safety is outrageous. If you're not vaccinating, if you're not feeding kibble, if you're not doing surgeries, if you're not coming in yearly for your boosters, if you're not on this medication because your dog is dealing with this, if you're not doing all the things and you want to do something different, you're dangerous to the society. You're the danger. You're going to be the one that is going to cause every dog to die because you're not following our protocol here. This illusion is so big and so massively spread that when we started talking about this, I remember years ago when I talked about this, people thought I was just freaking crazy. Like rabies was going to come and kill out the whole town, because I didn't do this. And but today's different. There is a light. There is a lighthouse, and we are part of that lighthouse where we're shining, and people are taking notice that these tactics are not superior as they claim.
As traumatizing as COVID was to the entire world, it did have some pluses.
It's kind of a blessing.
It woke a lot of people up because, like you were just talking about, if you don't do all the things, you're going to kill your dog and all the other dogs. It's the same thing with COVID. If you don't wear your mask, stay home, and get your vaccines, you're going to kill yourself and everybody around you. You got to understand their playbooks. They will use the same playbook over and over again, no matter what virus it is, whether it's animals or whether it's humans. It's the same playbook, the same tactics, and they do it because it works.
It's because we're programmed to fear. We're already fearful already. So why not? Like this bird flu. Now.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, here's the next one. This is the next thing they're rolling out. And people are starting, you have no idea the conversations that are being spread in raw food groups and dog groups about bird flu. Yeah. And it's one freaking kitten.
Cat in Oregon, Oregon or Washington?
Washington State with Darwin. And we already know it probably was not even the food, at all. No. And but that was the best scenario they could. It's really interesting because E. coli came from Washington too. Remember, they were the first one to have it, was in Washington State in Seattle. And so now the first bird flu is in Washington. Why are we always picking Washington State? It's really interesting because they can get away with it there probably, but who knows? Right.
Yeah, that's where the people are most susceptible to it, in those areas where they'll buy into the propaganda
and then they can start spreading it. Start that shit here in Idaho. It would never even make it to the news. Like,
oh my gosh. I mean, living here in Idaho during 2020 was quite a different experience than a lot of the rest of the country. Now we did have a governor that, shut down anything that was non-essential. I'll still never understand that. But the people of Idaho, they were very resistant and resilient, and nobody was conforming and buying into this. Everybody was just really just living their lives and going about as normal as they possibly could in the situation. But and we were, as my son plays club baseball, and they shut down Little League and they shut down all this and all that. But by May, we were back out on the ball field. Oh, yeah. And the other
4th of July, we were partying.
Oh, we had a big party 4th of July. Yeah. But no, I mean, like, we play club baseball. So Washington, Oregon, California, those teams come in a lot and play. And we were kind of without them for a few months because they were still locked down, masked up, that kind of stuff. But we were just having a good old time here in Idaho playing and getting back to life. But
that brings us into keeping our freedoms, right? That's one thing I love about Idaho is how much we stand for our freedoms here. Yeah. And that is something as dog parents, we have to learn how to stand in that freedom no matter where you live.
Yeah. And it really, it's easier when you have more like-minded people. It's much easier to stand up against the tyrants than when you're alone. Some of you are out there in a real blue state that you're kind of feel like you're really alone there. And I get that. But the basis of everything is freedom. And in this specific topic, it's medical freedom. And medical freedom really starts with informed consent, which has been completely eliminated in our country. And informed consent is basically, I don't know, another word for it would be, I don't know, truth. Like, here's what's in our product. Here's the benefits. Here's the side effects. Here's the risks.
And then you decide if you want to consume this.
Right. Like here's the full truth about this particular product. Nobody's got any kind of agenda behind it. Here's the truth. And now you make the choice of whether you want to use this product or not. Informed consent is non-existent in our country because, like we said, we're using fear and we're using, calling people names, manipulation.
We're manipulating everybody into this fearful thinking.
But we didn't lose our medical freedom overnight. Like we didn't lose, it didn't just happen one day. It happened over decades where we allowed corporations to infiltrate our government agencies. And then they were creating the policies. There was literally like corporation CEOs taking government positions, making policies that benefited the corporations. And then they're leaving their government positions and they're going back to their, CEO positions, the executives, back to the pharmaceutical companies. Like it's insane. Like these are just some of the things. So this happens in pet food. This happens in pharma. This happens in human food. This happens
everything.
In everything. And it's like, you wonder how we got to this place. It's part of it's, we allowed it to happen, but the other part of it is this was all going on that we didn't even know about. We didn't even know what was going on. We had no idea.
That's why you guys got to remember, like a lot of the people that own or big investors in any of these areas, remember the whole tobacco companies? That's where they're throwing their money, is into the food industries, into the seed oils, into everything, because that's where it's profitable for them. And then they're profiting in the pharmaceutical industry as well too. But what I'm really excited, even though this is all shady, this is all like, we don't like what's going on. I don't play in this playground at all. I mean, I don't play in this playground at all, that my dogs never even need veterinarian care. Why is that? Because I don't allow that system to manipulate my dog's health to make them a long-term customer. It's just like myself and my family, right? Unless it's an emergency, I don't need to go see the doctor to like do things all the time. Guess what? We're hardly ever sick. And when we're sick, we can take care of ourselves so easily at home.
It's funny, Lorena, I just want to say, like, people think that since I'm a natural ring breeder, that I got all the hookups with the holistic veterinarians. And so everybody just thinks like,
always,
who do you use for an integrative vet or a holistic vet? And I'm like, I don't have a vet. I don't need a vet. Granted, if there is an emergency, I will 100% go utilize a vet. My dog got hit by a car. My dog swallowed a golf ball. Okay, I'm going to utilize an emergency vet. But when it comes to health, we've never used a vet. Like first off, the dogs are just straight up healthy, but in the event there's something minor that goes on, we just treat at home with something natural. But everybody assumes that since I'm everybody wants to have a veterinarian. Like even people that want to naturally rear, they feel more comfortable with a veterinarian. And I'm like, you need to feel comfortable in your dog's health. Like seriously, everybody thinks that I must have some great holistic vet on speed dial.
It's the same with me. I get it all the time. What holistic vet do you use? Yeah. I live here. Do you know any holistic vet? Like, don't take my dogs to the vet, but they never need to go to the vet. Ever.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, what? I'm like, what if this happens? And what if that? Well, what if it happens? I'll deal with it if it happens. But I'm not going to worry about if it will happen, because I'm not going to put energy into it. Right. That's the problem, is that we put so much energy into the what ifs instead of living right now and how to be in the present time to stay healthy as possible.
Well, and exactly. Living in the now is huge because you cannot live in regret of the past or fear of the future. But, people truly have lost sight of the fact that when you don't inject bodies with poison and when you feed a dog the food they were meant to eat, they're just going to actually be healthy. Like they just are. But they've known sick dogs their whole lives. That's all they know is sick dogs.
Yeah.
So they don't understand that they can have a healthy dog. And I'm not
I
talking
haven't
even
had sick dogs for 20 some years, and that's why I am where I
and
am, because I had a sick dog, you
I'm
know?
not I'm not even talking like cancer and autoimmune. I'm
Yeah.
talking dogs. My dog has allergies. My dog,
Skin
some small
issues.
small
Yeah.
things that like we really need our vet for, and
My
think,
dog has a low cough.
yeah, they people until you experience it,
Mhm.
um, they don't understand just how healthy these dogs are going to be. There's just no reason for them not to be healthy because all of their illnesses are a result of literally attacking the body with poison. That
It's the
whether
lifestyle that the system has put them in,
Yeah,
right? It's the lifestyle that they live within the system that keeps them at the state that they are, that need that services. And so if you're in the system, you need that services. I mean, that's the bottom line. You just can't leave that
right,
service if you stay in this system. But
right,
you
you
leave
can't.
this, yeah,
And there's
and
a
but
lot
you
of
leave
people,
this and you don't
and
need it.
you're so right about that because there are a lot of people who want to stay in the system but then get a holistic vet, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you got 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door. That's going to be really complicated. But it's like it's become so normal to have sick dogs that no one even is like really thinks their dogs are sick because it's like, oh, what does your dog have? Oh, he has this. Oh, my dog has that. Oh, she has this. So everybody, it's like everybody's they're in their own little clubs of like, my dog can't eat chicken club, you know.
Right.
um
It's like older people, I should say old because I'm old, but older people,
well, you're
they
older
sit
than
around.
me, so
Yeah, well, there you go. See? Like older people. I remember my grandfather being around all his friends, right? And they talk about, did you get a colonoscopy? And then I had this with my doctor, and I can't poop today. Like they talk
yeah,
about like all the problems because guess what? They're in that system too, just on
right,
human side.
yeah,
So what I'm
it's
really loving, not what has happened, but who has come into this position now to clean house. And that's
oh
Kennedy,
yes.
right?
Yep. And so that's, if you didn't notice, MODA is loosely connected to MAHA. uh,
Right.
Kennedy's got Make America Healthy Again. And we're sitting here on the sidelines, like, make our dogs healthy again. Like
Yes.
they matter too because they're stuck in the same systems
They're stuck with the
as
same alphabet agencies, right?
yes.
And agencies in the same industry, except one got one guy coming in, Kennedy, to like clean house, but is he going to look at the whole package? We don't know. We don't know if that's going to happen. It's something I'm hopeful. I know Lisa's hopeful for that, but we
Yeah.
won't know until right now. Yes, 100% humans are being focused at first. I get that. And
Yep.
animals will come as they start cleaning house. I'm just hopeful he'll see that light over there and start identifying some really major issues. And if he can't see it, that's where you, the audience, and us and other people get together and we become louder so that
Yes.
they can hear us, they can see this, and they can take action.
Absolutely. And that's what Lorena and I are talking about. Like, honestly, the conversations, many of our podcasts, but this conversation today, we were talking about dogs, but we could have used the word babies or could have used the word kids. And it's the exact same thing. It's the big pharma and big food, which is just poisoning our children, our dogs. It's poisoning everything that's alive right now. The cows and the cats and the chickens and the dogs and so hopefully it's a whole big sweep of getting rid of these evil corporations. So if he sweeps it for the humans, it's going to get swept for the dogs,
We
hopefully.
can hope.
You could
I hope
hope.
it doesn't go from sweeping out from the humans and it goes straight into the animal industry for
Oh,
a
yeah.
minute. Like
It
it could
could. It
happen that
could.
way, right? And then we have to wait until things clear up for them to see, holy shit, look what's happening over here, right? Because it's an epidemic happening in the animal industry, but it's an epidemic that's not concentrated on enough.
No.
Death, sickness, illnesses, all the things like that. It's huge. And genetics don't cause epidemics, just like genetics doesn't cause epidemics in autism, right?
Right.
It just doesn't happen. It is some kind of product, and I will always call it that, a product, because we're paying for it, that is causing these issues. And the number two things are food and what are we injecting into animals,
Right.
right?
Yeah. So it's Kennedy has a huge, huge, huge battle in front of him because these corporations are not going to let go of their power and money easily. But he knows that he's not done.
Yep.
He's been fighting them for decades. He's been fighting them for a
Yep.
very long time, and he knows what he's up against. But he has decided God told him that he was going to do it, and so he's going to do it. And so let's just keep him in our
God likes to
prayer.
use so many people like he uses us. Like, thanks,
Yes.
God. No.
I know. Yeah, when God uses someone, it's always a big, like, it's never easy. Like, you're going to,
No.
I always tell
No.
Arena, you get put through the fire and you get refined, and it's, and you come out beautiful on the other side. But boy, when you're going through it's
It's
hard.
tough. It's
But
hard.
let's
People
keep,
don't realize, like, I'm loud on the internet and I get groups and people, and you have no idea the type of messages and threats. And like, I am getting chased to get burnt at the stake a lot.
you do, you get, since you are loud, the mob comes after you pretty bad. Like,
Yep. Yep.
they're vicious, and I don't understand it, because honestly, if I don't agree with someone,
I just walk away from it,
I
right?
do. I'm like, I'm like, it's crazy. I'll scroll on, I'll walk away. I'm like, I'm not like, I need to be in a mental institution because someone said something I don't agree with. Like,
I mean,
but
I showed Lisa a whole conversation that
yeah,
just happened. She's like, what post was this on? And I'm
yeah.
like, my post. I made a comment on a post. And then she came after me and then came after and then just wouldn't stop.
Oh,
And then
she was
came
bad.
all over. Oh, she was all over. I was like,
She was like, I'm going to take down all your
oh
businesses,
yeah, I'm gonna
put you out of
ruin
business.
you. Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, they're nasty, but you know what? She's part of the system that is
Yeah.
trying to shut down the opposition. And, and so when you do speak out, speak truth, it really helps to have a group of people with you, because you can support each other and stand up for each other. And it's just so helpful. And you know what, you might live in an area where you're alone, but we're in the world of social media, internet, text messages. Get your online, people there with you too,
Yeah. Break free from it. The number one thing that you can do is either okay, obviously, always come and listen to what Lisa and I have to share, but educate yourself beyond that. There's so many people out there that have, like, there's veterinarians you can go listen to. There's multiple veterinarians you can go listen to that share truth, that are sharing what's happening in the industry of veterinarian today, especially today, and the upcoming veterinarians that are going through schools. What are being taught to them? What are they being told, which is such a lie? And they're going to start, implementing all of this. So you need to learn how to advocate the best you can for your dog. And if you are scared, like Lisa said, you connect with others that are like you, that want the same. That's where our Paws Unplugged group comes in. We'll put that down in the notes here, for a direct link, so you can come and join that if you haven't joined it yet. And always follow, and share this podcast so you stay connected every time we put a new one on.
The more people that wake up from this, the more people that start living in truth, the more normal this becomes. I mean, I truly have a dream of a day where, if you go and inject your dog with poison to keep it healthy, you are going to be the weird one.
Yep.
You are going to be the one that people are looking at with a funny face. To think that we live in a society right now when you say, I want to keep my dog healthy, so I'm not going to inject poison, or I want to keep my dog healthy, so I'm going to give him the food he's actually designed to eat. And people are like, what's wrong with you? You're crazy. I can't wait for the day where that's flipped. I mean, I really got to say, like, dogs and cats are the only animals that aren't fed a species appropriate diet.
Yep.
Every other animal gets the food they were designed to eat. I mean, what if you tried to feed the fish bird seed? I mean, just like, I could go on and on with examples. Like, what
Yep.
if you tried to feed, the cows chicken? Like, what those
When
animals, they're gonna get sick and die, like, or just die really quick. But they're like, why is it acceptable? We love the dog. Like, the dogs are like truly our best friends in our hearts.
the reason is because of that love, they were able to use that fear against us. That's
Oh
why.
yeah,
That's
it's so
why.
true.
They were able to manipulate us into believing that someone knew better than God. Someone knew more than what to do. And someone, just like the school system, all the indoctrinated type things, came right in, swooped in, and made a plan. And that plan has been working very well.
So brilliant. And you're so right. The more you love something, the more you're afraid to lose it.
Correct.
So if you had 20 rabbits outside in your little rabbit hutch, and you don't want to lose them or anything like that, but oh
Your
darn, they
dog
died.
inside. Yeah. But you got your
But
beloved dog that you've had for 11 years. You're going to
oh,
do anything and everything to get at least another year, right?
or
Like,
or your puppy you've had for 11 days. You fell in love with that puppy the minute
yeah,
you laid
I'll
eyes
spend
on them. Yeah,
$5,000 to try to beat parvo out of it, but
yeah,
we'll do all the things that are incorrect to try to do it.
yeah.
You know, yeah, it's crazy.
It's so crazy. And we're in this crazy but great transition where people
Yep.
are starting to see that it's crazy, but the people aren't sure what to do. I mean, and that's
I
why we're
know there's
here.
a switch. I know that there is a movement happening because I have so many people that come from me like, I don't want to comply with rabies anymore. I don't want to do this. How do I get away from this? Right. And so we have conversations about it, how to, maneuver their way around that. But the, and when I tell people that the CDC has eradicated rabies since 2007, I am first called a liar. Like, simply Google it. Put it into Google if you don't trust me. And then they want to flip the switch and be like, well, if you don't do it, it's all going to come back. That's not what happens when you eradicate something. It doesn't come back. Like, that's not how it works.
I don't think
It
that's
doesn't
the
mean like,
definition of
yeah,
eradication.
but
um,
that's what they'll try to use against you, right? So stand strong, unite with others, educate yourself, get into groups that align with your values and your wants and your needs and the help that you want, right, from others. And stand strong. They're not going to come and bust down your door and take your dog away. They're not going to do it.
no.
Don't comply. Let them send you letters. Let them do what they want to do. You're the one that owns the dog. The state does not.
They like to think they own our children and
Oh,
our
yeah.
pets, and they do get most of our money. But just stand up. You are your dog's advocate. You are your dog's protector, and stand up for your dog. Do not comply ever if it is going to harm your dog.
Yep.
So
Get
that
groups together, go to legislation, go to your capital, get loud about things, go to where they're talking about dog vaccinations and what we should do, and bring valuable information. Bring the forms from the sea. Unfortunately, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. I used to have the website, and then they took the website away, and I can't find it where they archived it. But they had the whole printout of why they eradicated and when it happened, and like so on and so forth. You can only Google it and get a little snip in it.
right.
So if someone has it out there, please share that with us. I would love to have that and appreciate it. And we'll put it up somewhere, maybe in our group or something like that, in a file, so people can have it at their fingertips.
Yeah. And so we're talking about, what can you do to break free? Lorena told you, educate yourself. The more education you have, the more confidence you're going to have, the more bold you're going to be, the more you're going to stand in truth. We all start somewhere with just maybe it's our instincts or our intuition or a bad experience that make us see the truth. And then you get to work. Then you start educating and learning as much as you can and connecting with like-minded people. The next thing you do is you got to just stop supporting the system. I mean, that's
Yep.
it. You stop, enough people stop supporting the system, it's going to collapse. So transition to raw feeding. Don't buy the kibble. Okay. Just stop buying the kibble. The kibble industry cannot do anything if no one's buying their food. Like they're going to go under. Thank you. Avoid the vaccines. Do not give the vaccines. Do not buy the vaccines. Do not buy the chemical flea, tick, and heartworm medicine. Do not buy the pharmaceuticals. If people stop buying pharmaceuticals, they will go out of business. Okay.
Yeah.
They're only staying in business because we're giving them our money.
And I want to put a little note or a little insert there that if your dog is already on something that is needed to keep it alive, like it has diabetes or it has, like issues, obviously we are not telling you to stop that
right.
at all. Okay. But if you can not get to that point, here's what you need to be doing so you don't have to have dog that needs these pharmaceuticals for life.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Don't stop medicine that's needed to keep your dog alive. We're just talking about the stuff that's going to make your dog sick to begin with.
Correct.
However, there are a lot of medicines that dogs are on that they can get off of when they switch to a raw diet and they make some healthy alternatives. A lot of allergy medicines out there that I think dogs can get off of. I mean, you're not just going to stop immediately, but you're going to work on a plan to get your dog healthy and get your dog off of that. And it's a really big deal to support anyone who is fighting for the dogs, whether it's breeders, natural ring breeders. If there are veterinarians out there who are fighting for the dogs, support them. Just anybody you can find. If it's a groomer who doesn't require vaccines, if a dog trainer who doesn't require vaccines, anybody that supports medical freedom, anybody that supports the health of dogs, you support them. We work together. We are a community. We build our community. We make it normal. We make it the new way of thinking and processing everything, so just really, like I said, why don't we give a shout out to Abby while we're doing a podcast.
AK Kennels.
Kennel.
Yep. She has been our dog's trainer for over 4 years now. Okay. So she has been amazing and she had no problem taking my dogs that did not have vaccines. That was an issue I was coming across when I was looking for a trainer. And as she has grown and learned, not only in her business, but what I do in my business and what Lisa does in her business, she has learned the dangers of vaccines. She has learned the dangers of kibble. And when she trains dogs, she's giving them freeze-dry raw food, may it be liver or hearts or kidney or whatever, right? She's not giving that flavored bullshit in a bag at a store or some kind of thing that's just chemical and like tons of chemicals and it's not even real food as training treats. And those are things that our audience should also remember when they're doing training with their dogs find these types of companies that do that. Lisa and I both sell these things in our stores. So, but I'm sure there's multiple stores out there.
Lorena, that you said that tide is changing. I was in D&B last week. And I was in D&B last week and the treat section almost looks unfamiliar. Almost everything in there was freeze-dried duck, freeze-dried this. I mean, so times are changing.
It is. I mean, I love that they're changing that, but when you go really look at those products,
yes, they're not going to be. I know you got to look at them carefully.
You got to look at them, and a lot of it is shifting. It's cooked, and I'm just like, well, what's the point in giving this now? But yes, I'd rather you give that than a flavored bacon strip of something, that's not even real.
But the industry is noticing the shift. So they're shifting. Let's hope.
Because of the demands of the consumer, right?
Exactly. The
You
money
know,
is not going to the crap treats anymore. So they're not
so
selling. What do we need to do to sell our treats? But yes, I was saying, give a shout out to Abby. She's a dog trainer who does fully understand natural rearing and naturally raised dogs.
we'll put her information in our notes, because she not only, because you'll be like, well, I don't live in Idaho. Why do I care about her? Well, you should, because not only does she do in person in Idaho, she has virtual classes that you can get and utilize right in your own home.
Yeah, so she has virtual classes that she offers like true support with too. So if you have
Yep.
questions, you can call her or text her and she'll help you out. So that I do just really, we both appreciate Abby very much. And so my point was when you find trainers, when you find groomers, when you find breeders, when anybody who you find who is working to improve the health of dogs through returning them back to nature and raising them that way, that's where your money needs to go.
Yep.
Those are the people that you support, and that is the money is what is going to put people in business or take people out of business.
I need to plug just a little thing here, and this will probably piss off some of our viewers. And I'm sorry, but if it does, I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry. Okay. When Lisa talks about supporting the system that you want to break away from, so I'm going to break away and support. This is what I want in my dog. I don't want to vaccinate. I don't want to feed kibble. Well, guess what? Don't buy from breeders that do the first, they just got the puppy shots. Do not buy those dogs. Like, stop it, because you are supporting that system when you buy from that breeder that does those things that you don't want to do. Don't tell me, well, I just found out, or they won't do this. Then don't buy the dog. There are multiple breeders out there that do exactly what Lisa and I do. Now, is it every breed? No, not at this time, but it's slowly coming around. Is everybody that say they are natural rearing breeder a real natural rearing breeder? No. Okay. If they feed any kind of kibble, if they do little vaccines or whatever they want, they do dewormers, those aren't natural rearing breeders. So when we tell you things, I sometimes feel like I gotta be more specific in this area, because this truly is my passion to break. I don't want that around anymore. I want to figure out how we can become the new norm system, like Lisa talked about. And here's where you can find the intact, pure blood, as we call it, that has not been contaminated for years. I mean, like generations, as we keep building. Imagine in a few years that we have like a seventh generation. It's huge. People don't
Yeah.
even realize that just changed the whole directory of the dog's immune system. Like,
Yeah.
I think I said that wrong, but you know what I meant.
Trajectory. I got you.
Thank you.
Trajectory. Yeah. So it's I 100% agree with Lorena, because both her and I individually talk to people. This is an everyday thing. It's so sad. But my puppy, they think their dog is unvaccinated because they never got it vaccines. They'll be like, "Oh, is your dog vaccinated?" And they'll say, "No, just the ones the breeder gave."
Yeah.
And
What is
or
that?
yet,
Not a real vaccine? Like,
because they didn't take their dog to get him
wow.
vaccinated. Or they'll say yes, but only the ones that the breeder gave. So they kind of feel like they're in the safety zone where, like, I didn't over vaccinate my dog. And sadly, Lorena and I every single day are helping people that only had the puppy vaccines.
Yep.
It's we've talked about this in the past, and those are probably the most dangerous vaccines you can give a dog. So you know
The
what?
dewormer itself will destroy a gut flora that will change. Yeah, like there's so much, right? Like,
right.
just don't do any of it. Don't buy a dog that has had any of those kind of things.
If the breeder will agree not to deworm and not to vaccinate, okay, then you're going to start yourself. You're going to rough feed that dog, and you're going to start yourself a first gen naturally reared. But don't compromise. If they say I'm vaccinating and I am deworming with these chemicals, move along, because you're going to have a lifetime of problems. Like I said, if you can't get a natural rearing breeder for whatever reason in your breed or in your time frame or whatnot, then just ask the breeder, please, these are my beliefs. And honestly, they're either going to agree to it, and you can
or
start
they
off,
won't.
or they won't. And
Yeah.
you do not compromise because you want
And
that certain dog right now.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
it's
fell in
the
love with,
impatient. People are impatient, especially when they get in their head, I want this dog. I want a dog. And if I can't get it from this person, now I'm just going to scout everywhere or search everywhere and look for this dog and be like, but then I'm going to do everything that the breeder that I wanted to get it from is going to do, even though it's already jacked up with 10 different other things, right? So stop doing that. That does not change the system. That still fuels the system.
it does, it still fuels the system. So just there, there's options, there's ways of doing things. You might not be able to get your dog today. If you have to have a dog right now, if you have to have a puppy right now, you might have to wait a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah.
A lesson, patience will pay off. I've been that way in my life, right, where I've been like, I gotta have this right now,
Yeah.
and sometimes
But
I went
it's
and got
not
it.
worth it. It's not worth to compromise for your fulfillment. Okay.
especially if you're already questioning vaccines and you already
Yeah.
want a dog that isn't vaccinated, to compromise your values to get something you want, you're gonna regret it worse than someone who just didn't even know any
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
You're really gonna give, and you can't compromise and still be happy.
No. What we are going to talk about next in our next episode, because I wanted to bring this up, this kind of ties into what we were just saying, is that Lisa and I just found out of a new norm, a new word, a new way of calling a sick dog without using sick dog. It's called autism.
Yes, you heard
We
that
were,
right. She
yes,
did not say autism.
I said autism.
Autism.
They are utilizing, and when I say they, dog parents are being told their dog has autism.
And there are a whole bunch of them out there that are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know there was such a thing. And now I know why he acts so crazy. And
Yeah.
he has a label with it now. That
Yep.
that's going to be our next episode, autism. You're going to
Yep.
probably want to tune in for that
Yes.
one.
I thought it was a joke. I
I
literally
thought it
thought it.
was a joke too. I was like, oh my gosh, haha. No, it's a
No,
real thing.
it's a real thing. So I'm
And
excited about our next episode just because it's going to really cover a whole new territory that we haven't really been talking about. And I think our listeners are really going to appreciate this one, especially if you have a dog dealing with some serious problems.
yeah,
And we are going to share with you why those problems are happening and also, like why they're trying to make this the new norm.
yeah.
It's
Same.
another way.
Just
Yeah.
remember, guys, if a playbook works, you're not changing the plays.
No,
And their
you're just
playbook is working. I think a lot of you know where we're going to go with this, but we're going to go deep into it. So you'll want to stick around for that.
yeah.
And as we do wrap up this podcast, I do just want to just send out a request that everybody does keep RFK in his prayers, because like I said, he is going up against power and money that the likes of us have never or will never know.
Yeah.
And he needs to stay safe, he needs to stay strong, and he needs to have his enemies defeated so he's really on a mission to make America healthy again, and this country is in desperate need of that. So let's just keep him in our prayers as he begins his journey with the new administration, and trying to make change for the better for everyone. So I do just have that request for you.
Yes, I agree. I agree. So don't forget to like, follow, and share our podcast. The more that you can like it, leave a review for it, favor it, the more people will see us in the category of dogs. And we would really appreciate that because we feel everybody should start learning more and educating themselves more on all the dangers that are coming towards all of our dogs if we stay
Yes.
within the system.
Yes, absolutely.
All
So
right. Until
thank
next
you
time.
guys. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we appreciate every one of you. And we'll see you next time for episode 7, Autism.
Bye.
Bye bye.